Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today I've been asked to give a class about book distribution. Since we have the marathon going on, book distribution marathon. And so we'll do that today. We're actually not going to read from a verse today, but we will keep Srimad Bhagavatam here. And you'll see as it will become very essential during the class. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvisesha Sanyavari Paskyacha Desatarni Panchakopa Tirubhishta Kripa Sindubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I remember not so long ago, just a few years ago, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj sitting on the scale there, and then people were buying the books in the weight of Maharaj. I remember that not so long ago. Of course, we know I was with Prabhupada back in 1972. Actually, when I first met Srila Prabhupada, it was before I became his personal servant. And it was in May of 1972. And at that time, Prabhupada, every afternoon, he would go sit in the garden. 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This was in Los Angeles. Los Angeles has very nice spring-like weather most of the year. So Prabhupada enjoyed it there very much. He said that garden in Los Angeles, he said, was his favorite place. Prabhupada had many favorite places, but he also said that garden in Los Angeles, New Dwarka, was his favorite place, because there were so many Tulsi plants in the garden. So it was Vrindavan. I was telling the devotees yesterday, some of the devotees, Prabhupada said this was his favorite place. He said he had 2 favorite places, Juhu and Hawaii. Why were they his favorite places? Another kind of favorite place. We have favorite places because of different situations. Vrindavan was most favorite place, because it's Vrindavan. But he said Juhu and Hawaii were his favorite places. Dab. You know what dab is? Coconut water. Every afternoon. Right here in what now is, I believe, parking area. That's where Srila Prabhupada's flat was, here in Juhu. He was up on the 2nd floor. He had this little flat there where he would stay. And of course, after his lunch, Prabhupada took a nap, about a half an hour. Nighttime, he was only taking rest 2-3 hours. So he took a nap after lunch, 2 o'clock, like that. And here in Juhu, of course, so many dabs, coconuts were there. So he would come out of his bedroom, and I would be sitting in the hallway. We say in US, we say living room area. Sitting in the hallway, I would just be sitting there. And he would come out of his bedroom, and he would walk to the bathroom. He didn't even look at me. But as he was walking towards the bathroom, he would go, dab. And then I would go into the kitchen and cut the dab. And we had a nice straw, golden straw Prabhupada had. Golden straw, I think it's in Vrindavan. Is it in Vrindavan? Yes. It's in his rooms in Vrindavan, his gold straw that he would put into the coconut. So he liked this place very much. We know this place for Prabhupada was a place where he fought so much. It was like Kurukshetra here, Juhu, for Srila Prabhupada, always fighting to get this place so we could be sitting here today, 50 years later, sitting in this beautiful temple that Prabhupada fought so hard for. So there in 72 in the garden, I became, first day I went in there, every day, just like that, 4 or 5 young men, brahmacharis. We were all brahmacharis. You joined, you became a brahmachari. First day, you went into the temple, they shaved your head, you put saffron on. That was very easy. So there was always there 4 or 5 brahmacharis sitting there. And Prabhupada would have us read Krishna book. This was the first time. I had been living in the temple for a year now. I went there for Brahmin initiation. Prabhupada gave myself and my godbrother, 2 of us, he gave us Brahmin initiation together. And in the afternoon, we'd sit in the garden, and devotee handed me the Krishna book. And he said, when Prabhupada asks, you read. I said, okay. So, of course, we'd sit in the garden, and Prabhupada was on his asana, a little trellis over him. Beautiful little garden, small area, with privacy wall around. And you would just watch Prabhupada. That's all we did. We would watch him, we would listen, whatever he said, we would just listen to him. And then he didn't even say, he'd just look at me. First time. Didn't say to me, okay, now you read Krishna book. He just looked at me. And that meant read. And I started reading a story. I just found a story. And it was about Krishna killing a demon. And we're all sitting in the garden. And I'm reading. And Prabhupada's sitting there. And we're all listening. But you could understand there are different levels of hearing Krishna book, of hearing Krishna's pastimes. Because I'm reading and everyone's sitting, and all of a sudden I said, and I don't even remember the story, but I said how Krishna killed this demon. And Prabhupada started laughing loudly, laughing and laughing and laughing. And then it didn't stop, and his body started shaking, and he's laughing and laughing, and the body's shaking and shaking. And then he starts slapping his knee, and he's laughing loudly, and tears are coming out of his eyes. So we're all laughing. We weren't laughing because of the story. We were laughing because of seeing Prabhupada. He gave us that. He gave us that ecstasy, and we're all laughing and laughing. And then I went on and finished the story. So the next day, I have the Krishna book, and I put the marker on a story. Of course, it was a story, demon, because I thought Prabhupada really likes to hear about demons. I did too. When you're young, you read Krishna Balaram killing demons, yanking heads off, throwing them out against the tree. So many wonderful activities. So I found a story that back then, 1972, I liked so much. So I thought, I'm going to read this story, and Prabhupada's going to laugh, just like he did yesterday. I don't know why I assumed such a thing, but I thought, when I read this one line, he's going to laugh just like he did yesterday. So we're sitting there, and Prabhupada would speak a little. Sometimes he'd chant on his beads, and then he looked at me and just nodded his head. And read. He didn't say read, he just nodded. And my heart's already beating because I'm my anticipation. You know, we all have anticipation to enjoy, right? And they say that in the material world, that's usually the best part, is your anticipation, because the enjoyment never comes up to the level of what you think is going to happen, how happy you're going to be. We're always disappointed in the material world. But I had this anticipation, and I turned to the story of the big gorilla. That was one of my favorite stories, because he was such a nasty gorilla, big black, and he did all kinds of vulgar things. So I'm reading, and it came up very soon to the spot, the sentence I was going to say, and I thought, Prabhupada's going to laugh just like he did yesterday. Imagine. I just assumed it. Anyway, I came to the spot. What happened? He came out from behind the bushes. Of course, he was taunting the women, naked in front of them. And then he went to the jugya, and he passed urine on the fire. So I thought that was hilarious. And I read it. And when I read it, as soon as I said it, Prabhupada started laughing. Just like he did yesterday, laughing and laughing and laughing. And then his body's all shaking and tears are coming down his eyes and his body's shaking. He's laughing, didn't stop. And he's slapping his knee. You know, in America we say knee slapper. That's like the very height of laughter. You can't control yourself. Prabhupada's laughing and laughing, and we're all laughing because he's laughing. The story, we're just listening to a story. But Prabhupada's seeing the story. He's right there. And he's laughing and laughing and laughing. And then I carried on reading. So then the next day came, and we go in, and I didn't prepare a story for the next day, which I would have, but Krishna took my intelligence from me. So we go in, we all offer obeisances, sit down, and Prabhupada looks at me, he said, read. Because he knew what was going on. He knew what was going on in this head of mine. He said, read. And I start looking for a story, Krishna Balaram killing a demon. And then he said, anywhere. He said, Krishna's like a sweet ball. He said, wherever you bite, it's sweet. That's these books that we go out, that they're distributing, that they're selling here, that they're giving to people. Everywhere, these books of Srila Prabhupada, like sweet balls. He said, anywhere, he said, read. So then I just found the very next story and started reading. But of course, that laughing didn't come in that story. So that was May 1972. So then, just a few months later, August, 3-4 months later, I became his personal servant in New Vrindavan. And then we went back to Los Angeles. That was when book distribution started exploding in the USA. Big book distribution. Till then, it was back to Godhead magazines, I remember. But now, somehow or other, devotees, they were selling Bhagavatams, Bhagavad-gitas, big books were getting sold. And BBT manager at that time was Rameshwar. He was just young, we were all young, 1972, he's same age as me. He was 21 years old. And he's managing Bhaktivedanta Book Trust. And he would bring me a slip of paper at the end of the day. The devotees' names, maybe a dozen different devotees, and how many books they had distributed. And then I'd bring it up to Srila Prabhupada, and he'd see how his books were getting sold. This was the beginning. Prabhupada was so enlivened Then he would send down, he didn't even know who is this? Who is this Rameshwar Prabhu? Imagine. Everything just exploded like overnight. So finally one day he said, call him up. You want to be noticed by Srila Prabhupada. He was noticed by Srila Prabhupada by distributing Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada said, call him. So I brought him upstairs. And he said, you tell all these devotees. He said, they have my blessings, distributing my books. He said, most important thing, distribute these books. So that was back then, 53, 54 years ago, that it began. So then for me, I got to see over the next 3-year period, up until 1975, Prabhupada would read his books. When I first became his servant, there's a photograph. You see Prabhupada standing there? Or is he sitting in this one? He's sitting. And he has 6 books next to him, right? Krishna book is there, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Bhagavad-gita, and the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That was it. These were the books that were on Prabhupada's bookshelf. In his room, anywhere in the world, in his sitting room, there was a bookshelf next to his asana. And on the bookshelf, Prabhupada's books. No other books. Nothing. No encyclopedias, no dictionaries, just Prabhupada's books. So every month, there'd be another book on the shelf. Second canto, first part, second part. Prabhupada's translating a book a month. He's translating. By the time I left in 1975, there's like 60 books on Prabhupada's bookshelf. But no other books. In the afternoon, after his nap, that was Prabhupada's bhajan time. You all have bhajan time. Everyone needs to have this. They sit, they read, do bhajans, chant japa, whatever it may be. That part of the afternoon from 2 o'clock to 5 o'clock, no one went into Srila Prabhupada's room. He read his books, he chanted japa, sometimes he would do bhajans, Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, played a harmonium by himself. He didn't call for people to come in. He'd just sit and chant, do his personal bhajan. If I would hear the harmonium sometimes, because I'm right outside his door, I hear the harmonium, I'd run in and I'd offer obeisances. And of course he'd look at me and go, and grab the cartels. And I just play cartels as he chanted. One day in Bhaktivedanta manner, Prabhupada chanting, playing harmonium and playing cartels. And after he was finished, I said very naively, very simply, I said, Prabhupada, I said, no one chants like you. He looked at me. He said, I have my own style. He said, I have my own style. But then other afternoons, I would go in, and he'd be behind his desk. And he'd ring the bell. And I'd go into the room, offer obeisances right there in front of his sitting place. And he's reading his book. To me, this was the most amazing thing. He's reading his books. On the airplane once, he always sat by the window. Prabhupada always sat at the window. I sat next to him. This day, Sanskrit editors next to him, Prajumna, or Panditji. Prabhupada called him Panditji. And Prabhupada's reading his Bhagavad-gita on the airplane. And then he looked at us. He said, "What author do you know reads his own books?" And of course we said that was a rhetorical question. He's going to answer it for us. We just look at him. He said, "No one." He said, "No author." He said, once they finish a book, they never look at it again. They'll go write some other book. He said, "But here I am reading this book. Why?" And again, we just look at him, waiting for the answer. He said, "Because it's not my book." He said, "They're not my words." He said, "They're Krishna's words." Bhagavad-gita as it is, Krishna's words. Every night I would hear Prabhupada doing his dictation, Srimad Bhagavatam dictation, every night, sometimes starting at midnight. He's taking rest after 10 o'clock at night. 10 o'clock at night, I'm in his bedroom with him, sitting on the floor, massaging his legs, massaging his feet. No one else is in the room. No one comes into Prabhupada's bedroom except his servant. I'm giving him massage, and he would just lie there. And you massaged him. Yesterday I heard one devotee say, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj, he would get massage in the evening, same way. And he would tell his servant, "You massage me until I fall asleep." And I kind of laughed, because when I was with Prabhupada, you massaged him until he told you to stop. Even if he looked like he fell asleep, he's not sleeping. Prabhupada didn't sleep like we slept. And sometimes at 10:30 at night, I'm still massaging him, and I'm squeezing his legs, make sure he knows I'm still there, just in case he fell asleep. So I'm massaging. The harder I massaged, the more he liked it. So he would not say, and finally he'd say, "Go take rest." Even then, you know, as brahmacharis, you learn all these rules and regulations, right? You don't eat unless you're called by the spiritual master. Same thing, you don't take rest until he tells you you can go take rest. Otherwise, you're massaging him. So that's what I did. So every evening I'd hear him. Every word he picked. He had his Grundig dictaphone machine. Prabhupada was very expert with technology. It had a little on the microphone, had a little thing, push back and forth. You could go rewind, record, or play. You could hear. So he would rewind and listen to what he said. And if he thought maybe it should change a little bit, he would rewind and then say something maybe a little bit different. So every word in his books were chosen very, very carefully. You can talk to Sanskrit editor, you can talk to Prajumna. No adjustments. Only Sanskrit editor's thing was the word for word, to make sure they got the word for word. Otherwise, every word, Prabhupada said, perfect. So as I'm with him over this time period, almost 3 years, and the books on the bookshelf, they're just expanding. So one afternoon, I'm with him now almost a year, and he rings the bell. He rings the bell, you go in the room, you offer obeisances. So I'm right in front of him, he's sitting down, and he's reading his Bhagavad-gita, as it is. He's got his glasses, his reading glasses. Only time I ever saw him was reading glasses he would use. He's got his reading glasses on. And he looked at me. No one else in the room. He just called me in the room. He looked at me and said, "This book is so nice." He said, "If you just read this one book, you can become Krishna conscious." He said, "You don't have to read hundreds of books." He said, "Everything is in this one book you need to become Krishna conscious. You don't have to read so many books," he said. "Such wonderful book." And then he put his head back down. He continued to read. He just called me in to tell me that. He was in ecstasy reading his books. So he continued reading. I offered obeisances. I went back to my room. Prabhupada's traveling around the world. Every couple of months he's going around the world. So many months go by. I don't even remember what temple it was. It's afternoon time, 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon. Prabhupada's personal time. He rings the bell. I run. You don't walk. Prabhupada rings the bell. You don't walk. You run into the room. First day I became his servant. I had no idea what to do. There was no manuals. Servant manuals didn't exist. Initiation classes, guru classes, GBC. We have classes for everything. That time we had Bhagavatam class and Bhagavad-gita class in the evening. That's all we learned in those classes. So I became his servant. His previous servant wasn't even there to tell me anything. And Prabhupada's in his sitting room. This was in Pittsburgh. And I'm sitting in his bedroom, looking in his luggage, just trying to understand what he has, what am I supposed to do? And I heard the bell ring, very first time. So I got up, I ran into the room, I offered obeisances, and I looked at him. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I looked at him, and he's looking at me. And I said, "Yes, Prabhupada, what can I do?" He said, "Nothing. Just wanted to see how fast you were." So that was the first time he rang the bell. He wanted to see what was going to happen. And then he's still looking at me. I'm looking at him. I said, "Anything else?" He said, "No." I said, "Should I go?" He said, "Okay." He literally called me in to see what would happen. He didn't know. Could ring the bell for 5 minutes. Maybe no one will show up. So he was happy. He was satisfied. I came in. I said, "Should I go?" He said, "Okay." Then I went back into the room. So it's another afternoon. So many months go by. And the bell rings. I come in, sit down. It's always the same. Wherever he was around the world, he just had a cushion on the floor, a little desk in front of him. It didn't change anywhere in the world. Just like Vrindavan and Radha Damodar Temple. Simple. Prabhupada was simple. So I sit up and he has his glasses on. He's reading Nectar of Devotion. And he looked at me. He said, "If you just read this one book, you can become Krishna conscious. You don't have to read hundreds of books." He said, "Everything is here in this book." He said, "It's so nice. If you just read this book," he said, "everything is there. You don't have to read so many books." And then he put his head down and continued to read. So I offered obeisances, went back to my room. Another year goes by. Where are we? Here, in Juhu, right here, one afternoon. He's in his flat up there on the second floor. I don't know which direction. Think over there. Yes, over that side. Right there. Most sacred place where Prabhupada stayed. Where he fought Mr. Nair for so many times. He rang the bell. I come in, got his glasses on. I offer obeisances. What's he reading? Krishna book. The book 3 years before I was reading to him. He's reading Krishna book. And I offer obeisances. Sit up, and he looks at me. What did he say? He said, "This book is so nice. If you just read this one book, you can become Krishna conscious." It's a different book every time, different book. He said, you don't have to read hundreds of books. He said the exact same thing he said 2 times before. He's trying to teach me, because I'm a very slow learner. He said, you just read this book. Understand, he said, you can become Krishna conscious. He said, everything is in this book. And I'm sitting there. I never say anything. What can I say? Just shake my head. Yes, Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhupada. And he keeps looking at me. And I guess he's looking, you nonsense person. He sees his servant. What a rascal. Fool. He said, you don't even have to read the whole book. He said, 1 chapter. He said, if you read 1 chapter in this book, you can become Krishna conscious. He said, it's so nice. But he kept staring at me. He didn't put his head back down, so it means I can't move. I just sit there. And he's looking at me. You don't even have to read the whole chapter, he said. 1 page. And Prabhupada was always very demonstrative. If he's saying something, he's also doing. He said 1 page. He put his hand down. He said, if you read 1 page in this book, you can become Krishna conscious. And and he kept looking at me. And I'm sure, I don't know what he's thinking. He was thinking what can I do with this person? He said, you don't even have to read the whole page. He said 1 line. If you read 1 line in this book, you can become Krishna conscious. And he kept looking at me. He said, you don't even have to read the whole line. He said 1 word. He went like this, and he just put his finger on a word. He said, if you read just 1 word in this book, you become Krishna conscious. Because Krishna is in every word. And then he put his head down and continued reading. Then I offered obeisances, went back to my room. If I had any intelligence, what would I be doing? I'd go back to my room and start reading these books that Prabhupada gave us. He would say that they're not just for you to distribute. He said they're for you to read. Let's just say, right in Bhagavatam, right in the beginning, regular reading. Not here and there, once a week, once every couple. Regularly, daily reading Srimad Bhagavatam. One can gradually advance in Krishna consciousness. But what I saw with Prabhupada reading his books, he didn't have pen and paper next to him, like he was looking for mistakes or something. He read them and relished them just as they were, just as what he asked us to do in reading these books. But he said everything is in these books. I remember in those days, 2nd canto, 3rd canto, finally 5th canto comes out. And the devotees, 5th canto, of course, pretty intense. Huh? The whole 5th canto talks about the universe, the creation, and then all these hellish planets, all these different hells and everything. One devotee said, Prabhupada, is it okay? Should we distribute? Should we sell 5th canto, or maybe we should just do first? He said, any book. Prabhupada's books. Any book, he said. Whatever you have, he said, that you can distribute. Just after that, it was 1975 in May. Prabhupada took care. He was if you travel with Prabhupada, he was your temple president. He was your treasurer. He was your temple commander. He was everything. And he took care of you. He made sure you were eating nicely. He would check and see, make sure. He would look and see what we were eating. He would come out of his room and he didn't ever say anything. He would just look. and see what's on your plate, how you're eating. Huh? We were in Australia after being in India. Back in those days, to be in India wasn't a happy. Lots of austerity here in India for Westerners. Constantly sick, all the time. One disease after another. So we get to Australia. Australia was known for milk products. Very nice milk products. In fact, at that time, Muddied Visa, Prabhupada had Muddied Visa pay his book bill, his BBT book bill, by shipping ghee, cow ghee, from Australia to India, so that his disciples in India could have nice ghee. Because India always cheating is going on. Huh? Now we know too, they test it. It has this in it, has this in it, everything contaminated. So Prabhupada had him pay his BBT book bill by shipping ghee to India so that the devotees had nice ghee, nice milk products. So when we got to Australia after being in India for a few months, we were enjoying. I was cooking. We had cream and clabbered cream and heavy cream and sour cream, and of course we make paneer. So I was cooking in Perth, Australia. There was just 5 of us all together in not a temple, it was just a cottage Prabhupada was staying in, where he translated all day his books. For 10 days he was translating, night and day. So we're eating very nicely. And of course, after traveling 15, 20 hours on airplanes and airports, you have that word Prabhupada never said, jet lag. Now we say jet lag. We all get jet lag. So we were eating so well, myself and a few other brahmacharis, Paramahamsa Swami, his secretary. After lunch, we took naps. We never took naps in those days. ISKCON, no such thing as a nap. Only during Bhagavatam class could you take a nap while you're at class. Some people take naps here in Bhagavatam class. Otherwise, there's no sleeping except at nighttime. But we're all sleeping in this room together. 5 of us, sound asleep. Like 2 o'clock in the afternoon and the bell rings. So finally, I'm dreaming. I'm sleeping so nicely, I'm dreaming. And I hear the bell. So finally, I wake up. And when you hear that bell, you can tell you're in trouble. Just by the way the bell's ringing, you already know you're in big trouble. And I knew I was in trouble because he knows we're sleeping. So I get up and I'm like rubbing my eyes before I go into his rooms so he won't know I've been sleeping. He already knows everything. I go in, I'm offering obeisances and I'm opening and closing my eyes, but he doesn't even wait to look at you. He starts shouting, "I've been ringing this bell for hours." And I sit up. He said, "All of you sleeping like dead men." He said, "Very nicely sleeping." He said, "No one." He said, "Here, Perth, everyone working." He said, "Working hard for their sex life." But not the devotees. He said they're sleeping very comfortably. He said, like dead men. He would call us dead men, sleeping like dead men. Then he looked at me. He said, "Go on, call them." Whew. Now he's going to yell at everyone in the room. And there's a couple Australian boys. They've been in the temple just a few months. Prabhupada first went to Australia, 71. He had an initiation ceremony, and there were a few people that were set. And then he said, everyone, they were in the temple for a few days. He initiated them. He was so merciful. And he wanted to spread his Krishna consciousness movement. He needed all the little soldiers, qualified or unqualified. He didn't care. Initiated them, go out there and distribute books. He said, call them. So then I went, and first I tapped Paramahamsa. Prabhupada wants to see you. I said, and he's really mad. That was our mantra. Prabhupada wants to see you, and he's really mad. Prabhupada wanted to see you, that was dangerous. And then these young boys, these two brahmacharis, woke them up. They're sleeping nicely too. I said, Prabhupada wants to see you. So they're happy. Prabhupada wants to see them. They don't know what's going to happen. They're thinking he's just going to be nice. How are you? What's your name? No. They have no idea what's about to happen. Then we all go in together, offer obeisances. He says the exact same thing, just like he did with the books. This book is sleeping like dead men. He said, all of you sleeping like dead men. Everyone's working. Not the devotees. They're very happy eating and sleeping. He said, very comfortably. And then he looked at us. He said, go back to your room and sleep. We say that's adding insult to injury. We're already completely devastated. And then he says, go back and sleep. Go on. So we offer obeisances, we go back to the room, and everybody's Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. No one's going to sleep ever again. And then a couple minutes go by, and I hear the bell ring on there. Oh no. So I hear the bell ring again. I go in the room, offer obeisances. He says, call them. I said, yes, Prabhupada. This was imagine, this is your service, huh? Very exciting, most wonderful service. So I go back in the room. Now everybody's looking at me. I said, Prabhupada wants to see all of us. And now they're not so eager. Imagine being afraid to go see your spiritual master. Now they're thinking, what now? What's he going to do now? Maybe he's going to tell me to leave the temple. Nobody knows what he's going to do. So we go in, offer obeisances, and sit up. Of course, what's right behind us? A bookshelf. What's on the bookshelf? Prabhupada's books. Nothing else. Just Prabhupada's books. So we sit up, and Prabhupada looks at one of the young brahmacharis. He said, get a book and read. And the brahmachari, now he's shaking, he's scared. And he looks at Prabhupada, he says, which book, Prabhupada? Any book, Prabhupada says. Any book. So he grabs the book. And Prabhupada looking at him, he said, read. What does the boy say? Where, Prabhupada? What does Prabhupada say? Anywhere. Just read these books. We don't even understand how powerful these books are of Srila Prabhupada. Huh? You go out and distribute these books, you change a person's life. Prabhupada said if they just touch it, you change their life. What to speak of if they take it into their house, they put it on a bookshelf, purifies the whole home. Huh? During the marathon, many times you'll see the books on the altar. It's Krishna. Krishna's in every word. This book is Krishna. Krishna's right there. So Prabhupada said, anywhere. So then the devotees started reading. So this is our process, how important these books are. Some years ago, it was about almost 20 years ago, I was in Brazil. They have a farm, Nueva Goloka, New Goloka farm in Brazil. Many farms, lots of farmland in Brazil. So I was staying at the temple for a week. And I met this Brazilian man and his wife, and he had 3 children. And they were all living there on the farm at the temple. And I asked him, how long have you lived at the temple? And he told me, and then he told me how he became a devotee. And I don't know if you know, in Brazil, here we know cricket, big deal, cricket, right? Everyone knows cricket here. Well, in Brazil, what's the biggest sport in Brazil? Football, soccer. We say in America, we say soccer, football. Brazil, they're like the best in the world. Pele, you're all too young to know Pele. He was kick over his head, do a 360, kick the ball from behind. Anyway, that was Brazil. So this devotee man, he was a big, like most everyone, he liked football. And they would watch, you had the international games, the global games. So there was a very famous football player at that time. His name was Beckham. I forget his first name, Beckham. And this Beckham, he had a tattoo on his back. It was Sanskrit. Just some British footballer. But he had this Sanskrit tattoo on his back. So this person, devotee, he wanted to find out. He wanted a tattoo just like Beckham had. Beckham, he got his tattoo in Rishikesh. He went to Rishikesh at one point and he was attracted to the lettering and everything. He didn't even know what was put on his back. But this little Sanskrit, I don't know either, was put on his back, this phrase in Sanskrit letters. So this person saw that. And then he remembered 5 years ago, he bought a book from a devotee. And he knew in that book was these letters, these Sanskrit letters. So he opened up the book to find a phrase that he could have tattooed on his back, just like Beckham. But he opened the book. 5 years later, this book that was sitting on his bookshelf, he opened it up, and then he found this thing. Then he started reading the book. Then after some months, him, his wife, and his 3 children, they all moved into the temple. This is the power of Srila Prabhupada's books. We called them, you know what we called them back in those days? Time bombs. You know what a time bomb is, right? You know, like you have the landmines, a time bomb. You set it, you don't know, it may go off now, may go off next year, 5 years, 10 years. But it's a time bomb. At some point it's going to go off. These books are like that. We have no idea what happens. I read so many stories, people going into charity shops, buying secondhand books. They'll find the Bhagavad-gita. Somebody just donated to the charity store, Bhagavad-gita as it is. So this is the potency, Srila Prabhupada's books. And he works so hard every day, every night. Imagine, he's traveling around the world, staying in a place. One point, Prabhupada went around the world in 2 months. He left from here, January 1975. He went to 15 temples in 2 months. And in March, he ended up in Mayapur Dham for Gaur Purnima festival, our Srila Prabhupada. And as he was traveling, 1975, 10 years since he arrived in Boston Harbor, 10 years ago since he went to New York City, the Bowery, with nothing, no friends, no money, no place to stay. But he had books. When he came to America, he had 3 trunks of books. That was it. We know at that time they say 40 rupees. You know what he did with those 40 rupees? When he came back to India, he used it to get a rickshaw. No one would take rupees in America. They still won't take rupees in America. So he never even used that 40 rupees. He literally had nothing. But he had the order of his spiritual master and the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada said, all of these books, all the books are to bring you to the point of chanting Hare Krishna. Purpose of all the books. When I was with him in 1972, Radha Damodar Temple. What did he translate, Radha Damodar Temple? Which canto? First canto. That's what he came to America with. First canto. And he told me, he said, I put everything in the first canto that you need to become Krishna conscious. He said, because I didn't know if he would get any more translation done. So he said, everything required, he said, all the philosophy is there in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How special first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is, huh? Everything, he said, is in there. Oh, we have some time. I see we have a few minutes. Anyone has any questions, comments about the books? Most important, in this way, it's good for person distributing the book, person getting the book, everyone benefits. Prabhupada said, just by touching it, what to speak of, they come in contact with nice devotees, to get the association of devotees.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
You so nicely described how Srila Prabhupada was reading his own books. Why there is a necessity to change Srila Prabhupada books? Because Prabhupada was reading and then he...
That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to it. Prabhupada said every word. He said he took dictation from Krishna. Yes, yes. That's a subject we could speak about for a long, long time, not in a few minutes here in this assembly. But that was my point. When Prabhupada read his books, he didn't have pencil and pad where he's saying, we fix this, fix this. No, he relished every book. And then after first canto, as he said, he didn't know. What did he do? He went right and gave us the 10th canto, Krishna's pastimes. He wanted us to know about Krishna. Wonderful Krishna, Krishna's pastime. So he gave us that. He gave us Nectar of Devotion. And he gave us the summary teachings of Lord Chaitanya, the summary of Chaitanya Charitamrita. So because he didn't know, at least we say that, he didn't know how much he would do in Srimad Bhagavatam, he gave us all the essentials right in the beginning. First canto, Nectar of Devotion, teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and then he started doing other cantos. But as Shyama Sundar said, and you can read it in his books, in his comments, in talking with Pradyumna, they had very little to do. Basically, mostly, all they had to do was transcribe the tapes. That's what they needed to do, just transcribe. And I would see when I would massage Prabhupada before his lunch, that was when the Sanskrit editor could come into the room and they would ask questions about certain words, word-to-word translation, and Prabhupada would give them their answers. But otherwise, most important part was the transcriber, that they heard properly. A week or two ago, I gave a class in Vrindavan because there's very little information about Kartik. What did we do back in those days for Kartik? Did we do this? Did we do this? Of course, we did the regular program all the time. But I found one letter, and Prabhupada talks about Kartik, but his secretary, who he dictated to, says Kartikeya. So even if you look for Kartik, you're not going to find this letter where Prabhupada said, not for the devotees. He said it's not such an important thing for the devotees. He said it's for the karmis. It's like fire sale. They're giving you a very easy way to step into Krishna consciousness, following these different rules and regulations and offering the lamps, which we do, and Prabhupada encouraged offering the lamps. But he said the devotees are engaged in service 24 hours a day. Kartik, not Kartik, nothing, no difference. Every day same for the devotee. Like Prabhupada said, every day is New Year's. Every day Janmashtami. Every day is Kartik for a devotee. Always engaged in devotional service. This is the devotee's business. But Prabhupada's words, yes, everything he did was perfect.
Did Srila Prabhupada follow Chaturmasya? Did Srila Prabhupada follow Chaturmasya Vrata?
Not necessarily rigidly. Also that, and it's there in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I know. But, I know there were times when and it's especially applies to not just Indian culture, but even the weather in India. What you eat, what you avoid at certain times of the year. We know like the rainy season, not a very healthy season, rainy season, so different restrictions are there. Not eating spinach, we say leafy green sak, Then we had milk. But when he was in France, he had his breakfast and there was no yogurt. And Prabhupada said, why don't I have yogurt? And the devotee said, well, Prabhupada, it's Chaturmas, and we're fasting from yogurt this month. And Prabhupada was like, so I have to fast from yogurt because it's Chaturmas? Anyway, he got his yogurt at that time. In 73, I was in Los Angeles with Kartik. It was at this time when the devotees came from India. Prabhupada, he was teaching us very carefully what he wanted us to do. But when the devotees came to India, and of course especially went to Mayapur, there were influences from outside his ISKCON society. Even how we led kirtan changed due to influences of Gaudiya Mat. Sundar arati in the evening, whole melody changed after the devotees came from India, and how Prabhupada did it. So he was very careful in doing his best to protect his disciples from all outside influences. He said, they can't do anything to help you. He said, but they can harm you. That was what Prabhupada's understanding. And it was Kartik. And in Mayapur, the devotees, big devotees, the sannyasis, they stopped shaving. So then message went back to Prabhupada that certain devotees, they were growing their beards during Kartik. And Prabhupada, he became furious. Prabhupada shaved every day, sometimes every other day, but every day. He said, we're known as clean shaven. Hare Krishnas, shaven head, shaven face, that's us, he said. We're clean shaven. But he found out they were growing their beards during Kartik. So, of course, Prabhupada put a stop to it. And he said to me in the room, he said, my disciples, he said, they're so eager. He said to follow so many rules and regulations. He said, but they can't even chant 16 rounds and follow the principles. But so many rules and regulations they want to follow. So that's how he saw what was going on. So again, he gave us his program, his ISKCON. I spoke the other week. Prabhupada, founder Acharya of ISKCON. That means everything, he set up everything for how this society goes on perpetually. As long as ISKCON is there, he showed us what he wanted us to do. Not just Acharya, founder Acharya. Not that we have to go beyond what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur did, what Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, what he did. No, Prabhupada began the society and he structured it for us. For now and in the future. So, best thing we can do, as Prabhupada said, just do what he, as he would say, do as I'm doing. One of his things he would always say to the leaders, do as I'm doing. Not more, not less. He also, when he was there in Kartik, in Mayapur, and one of the managers, Prabhupada saw him and he was chanting, had his hand in his bead bag. He said, what are you doing? He said, well, Prabhupada, I'm chanting 64 rounds for this month. Prabhupada looked at him. He said, chant your 16 rounds and go preach. That was Prabhupada. He wanted preachers, or ISKCON society for preaching. So this was Prabhupada's process for us, for purifying us. The only way to make advancement is to follow the orders of the spiritual master. Simple process, but not so easy to do sometimes, it seems. I think we have a couple of minutes. Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada is father for all Prabhupada disciples, rest of us also. And that sense, Prabhupada's wife is mother for the Prabhupada disciples and all others also. And then her daughter and sons. So, is there any service given to Prabhupada's family after Prabhupada left and ISKCON becomes prosperous? Prabhupada not given any property on the name of the son or daughters, but is any service given to her?
I can't. We had one son, we all know Vrindavan Day. Prabhupada, when he was there in Calcutta, he told Gargamuni to help him set up a bookstall where he could sell his father's books, Prabhupada's book. So even with his family, the same thing. He offered them this same opportunity. And we know he gave, like you say, he gave his mother, his wife, he gave her place to stay, but then it reverted back to ISKCON. Prabhupada, everything was for ISKCON. But even his ex-wife, he saw that she was taken care of as long as she was alive. But then it didn't revert to the family. It was owned by ISKCON. So Prabhupada as a sannyasi is he was first-class sannyasi. Amongst everything else he did, he was also sannyasi and he practiced very well. In Vrindavan at Krishna Balaram Mandir, his sister came. This is when Prabhupada was living in his room, Krishna Balaram Mandir, in his home. So she came to Vrindavan. The ladies bought her a ticket. Even Prabhupada said, how did she get here? And they're saying, well, the Matajis, Prabhupada, they paid for his way. Prabhupada just shook his head, like, not required, So then one afternoon, the bell rang. I went into Prabhupada's room, offered obeisances, and Prabhupada looked at me. He said, sit. Just like that. Sit. And I sat. And his sister was on the other side. He said, even she's my sister. He said, I can't be alone with her. Even she's my sister. He said, they'll talk. They'll talk meant the Goswamis there in Vrindavan, looking for a reason to discredit his ISKCON Mandir, his society. He said, they'll talk. So he said, you sit here. So if she was there, I had to be there. So even with his little sister, Prabhupada made sure someone else was there. So he is perfect in every respect. All right, I think it's time. So we'll close here. So all of you that go out and distribute books, go out and distribute more books, as we would do back then. Double. Prabhupada would always say, double it. And those of you who aren't going out, go out. Even you distribute 1, 2 books, it's for your benefit, it's for their benefit. And Prabhupada would be very, very happy. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.